the first questions that myself and other teachers were, that we were asking ourselves, at least at our school, is how, not only what lessons are we going to use, but how are kids going to be able to balance those lessons with all the stuff that they have already going on at home? So I said this to you when we met, and I say it to everyone else, because a lot of things that I do is I borrow and I steal from the internet, from books, from everywhere, and I just kind of try to put my own spin on it. So I'm not really an innovator, but I do try to use as many resources as possible. And I saw this quote on Twitter, and I kept sharing it with everyone that would listen to it, that however much work you want to give your students, cut that in half, and then cut it in half one more time. Because especially where I am in El Paso, we're about a lot of our students come from Mexico, or they rely on school to escape their home environment sometimes. I don't know what they're going through, and some of the stories that I've heard that my students are going through are really bad. So I try to keep that in mind of school can be an escape for them. So I want to give them something. So it was really hard to balance. What do I want them to take away from this experience, and how do I get that to them through this new platform?
Yes, in our talks, it really has emerged that as teachers reach out to students and meet their needs and give them more independence, some of the students are getting more engaged with school than they might have been before. Can you talk a little about that?
I think more students are getting more engaged while others are not. And it depends on, frankly, I think it depends on their home environment. I think that's the saddest thing that I've seen, how much a home environment can affect your learning. And I'm worried how that's going to affect the future knowledge gap for our kids, because I have students that even before we went to online learning, they reached out to me and they were telling me, what can I be doing right now so I don't get behind in physics? What can I be doing in order to do this? And that really made me really happy that they reached out and was like, oh, they like the topic and they want to keep learning about it. While others, we haven't been able to engage them very well. I go online and I see that there's some teachers that they have over 100 students, and they half jokingly and half seriously say, only 10 of my students showed up today, only 20 of my students showed up today. So I usually see around 70% of my students a week, and I have around 85% doing the work, the online work. And I consider myself lucky. It's not as high as I would want it, but I think that's good that we are seeing engagement. And I think it's because kids, maybe they didn't realize it before, but I think they're realizing it now. Like, I do like school, and I hope that's why they're showing up.
Right. We've heard that lots of students then are having to pick up more shifts and they're working, especially if their parents have lost their work. And that really changes whether you can have synchronous education with students. So how have you or your colleagues had to adjust to continue reaching kids who may be working in this time?
So I personally have had that problem where some kids are not able to come to the session. I was assigned the 8:30 slot, and not that many kids can make it. Sometimes I have students that are saying they have to work because their parents have been furloughed, or they work at a grocery store and they're getting these crazy hours and they have to bring in that money to help their families, or they will lose their job. I had a student reach out to me saying that he got fired from his old job. He had to work in construction now because he has a son. So how do I balance that is by recording the sessions any lessons that I do are either a Nearpod, where the kids can self-pace and see the PowerPoint and I ask them questions, and they have like little activities in there where like match or answer these questions. They have little things that you can put in there. You can put those self-paced. I also put the PowerPoints and the assignments online, and I videotape myself and I put that on there. So I try to make everything available online, and the assignments, what I'm trying to do, even though it's physics, I'm trying to keep it really conceptual based. Like if I was teaching, what is the most important things? That's what I'm coming down to right now. The formulas are not important anymore. What's important is the concept, and how do I make that concept available to them? And so those are the questions that I have to ask myself, and how do I make sure they can see that? Recording myself, making the assignments available at any point, not counting work late. I had a student that turned in some work that was about 2 weeks old, but I didn't count it late, which usually in the classroom I would, but it's because I haven't been able to reach this student. He doesn't show up to class, so I don't know what is going on at home. He's on my list of students that I'm gonna call to see why isn't he coming? Maybe he is working.
Sergio, do you find that by videoing the lessons, some students are watching the video more than once until they get it, which maybe they hadn't been able to do with the in-person lessons?
I record my lessons, but I am not sure if they are watching them or not. There are several tools that you can use that I've used in the past to see if they're watching or not that I haven't implemented. There is Edpuzzle. Edpuzzle is a way where you can upload videos and you can do voiceovers, and you can add questions that are open-ended or multiple choice in there, and you can grade them. And it tells you how long a student watched each section. So if they rewatched a certain section X number of times, you can see that there. Swivel is another recording option that you can use that I've used before, but right now I'm only uploading them straight to Google Classroom, so I don't have access to those analytics.
Sergio, when we met, you showed me the ways that you can kind of counsel your students in real time, right? Students are doing their assignment, they're stuck on a problem, it's 11 at night, and they can ask you a question. And I was struck by two things. First, that you're answering students' questions, you know, when they need you. And second, that you weren't actually answering them. You're answering their question with another question. Even when they're in this crisis, you're saying, well, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And it struck me that this is a student that's stressed out and maybe despairing and learning on their own. And even in that moment, you're kind of conveying to them that you believe in them to figure it out and being Socratic. And that blew me away. And so I'm just wondering if you could tell us a little more about how you're providing students in real time. What's your philosophy? And I want to learn more about that.
So I've been inspired. The kind of teacher that I am, I really do try to emulate all the great teachers that I had in my past. And what you just mentioned about me being able to answer questions by asking more questions and being there for them as much as possible comes from my organic chemistry teacher in college, where he was available to us pretty much as long as he was awake. We could email him office hours. He had some really crazy office hours at night because he knew some of us worked. And then my calculus teacher that always told me, you know more than you think you know. There's no way you could have sat in my classroom this whole time and not absorbed something. So based on those two, I tell my students, you can read. As long as I'm awake, I don't mind if you write to me. If I'm awake, I'll respond, because I know that some of you guys get home really late. I work with a huge spectrum of students, and a lot of them are really, really busy, and they don't get home until 9 o'clock. They have band, they have basketball, and that's when they're going to get to do their work, and that's when they're going to need help. And I'm a natural night owl myself, so I tell them, hey, just write to me. The worst thing I can do is not respond and you're exactly where you were. But more than likely, I'll respond if you reach out to me because I want to be there for you. I always tell them, you have a Mr. Estrada in your pocket, you just need to reach for him. And I always try to answer questions with another question at least 3 times before I give them their answer, because I truly do believe that my students are engaged in the classroom and they know more than they think they do. It's a lot of confidence issues. And I know I want them to make connections. So maybe they don't know that answer, but I know they know this other fact. And maybe I can get them through some questioning to see that I may connect this idea to this other idea. And eventually, sometimes it takes a while, but sometimes I do have to just give them the answer, but I don't want to do that immediately because I want to be a support system for them, but not necessarily a crutch, because I want them to know that I want them to learn how to think and what questions they should be asking themselves during the test, because they're not going to be able to ask me those questions during the test.
Sergio, do you have office hours, and who are the students that are taking advantage of that, and what happens in those office hours that may be different from what it was before?
So when it comes to office hours, before I would only have office hours for, I would have like all around office hours only for my on-ramps students. They're the ones that had me on Remind. They can message me at pretty much any time. And my other students, my on-level students, I was available to them from 7 in the morning at school until about 5 after school, and then during lunch. I was not available to them around the clock as I was to my other students. One of the things that's changing now, Mondays I have office hours, and Fridays I have office hours in the morning. Not many students have actually reached out to me during then. The students that have, it's because they really need help, and I'm glad they reached out. I implemented Remind, which is a messaging system where you can message kids pictures, or they can message you pictures, and it gets recorded. It can never be deleted, which is what I love. And I tell kids, only message me through here or through my school email, because it can never be deleted. I can't alter it. So I feel pretty safe using it. And that's where kids message me late at night. And I've implemented that system now with my on-level students. And I see that they're using it there. When an assignment didn't open last week, they messaged me and said, hey, this assignment, this isn't working properly. So they feel comfortable reaching out to me then. And I think going on to next year, things I'm going to take from now is having Remind for all my classes. I would not do it before for my on-level, because I teach over 100 on-level students and I was afraid of being bombarded. But I think now that what I'm going to do next year is implement, not be completely available like around the clock like I am to my university level students, but do have like specific office hours. Hey, if you're working on homework from this time to this time on Wednesday night, go ahead and message me maybe twice a week. Have that open for them, or the night before an assignment's due. And then for my university level students, one thing that we started doing now is that, and I'm going to implement next year, is 1 hour a week where it's just like a group session of doing homework. So they have homework due every 2 weeks, about every 2 weeks. And what we've done now that we have Zoom, we met, and I have the computer open in the background and I'm in the kitchen doing whatever I need to be doing, but the students are doing their homework as a group. And if I hear something that sticks out, or if they really need help, they go ahead and call out to me. But for the most part, they're just working there, and they like that it's the time set aside for them to just work on their homework. So I'm going to keep doing that next year for my on-ramp students.